Hello everyone. Now we are coming to the end of the topic on alcohols. In this part, we are going to be looking at some of the reactions that alcohols undergo. In the previous session, we studied about some of the properties of alcohols due to their intermolecular bonding, like hydrogen bonding and induced dipole. We also looked at how we can differentiate between the three different types of alcohols. So let's look at the different types of reactions that alcohols undergo. When we are looking at the reactions of alcohols or any organic compound for that matter, it is a functional group that is going to take part in the reaction. The functional group is the only group that is going to change during a chemical reaction, while the alkyl group is going to remain unchanged. So one of the reactions that we are going to be studying for alcohol is the oxidation reaction. For an oxidation reaction, there must be usage of an oxidizing agent. So we are going to see the different types of oxidizing agent and their effect on alcohols. Now when alcohols oxidize, they form carboxylic acids. So let's look at the first reaction of alcohols, which is oxidation of alcohols using acidified potassium permanganate. So you can see how acidified potassium permanganate can be written. Acidified is symbolized as H+, and permanganate ion is MnO4-, where the reaction is going to have a color change from purple to colorless. The purple is due to the permanganate ion and the colorless is due to the manganese ion. Let's watch a video and see how oxidation of alcohol is carried out using potassium permanganate, which is acidified. Can also be carried out using potassium dichromate. Potassium dichromate also have to be acidified, meaning a few drops of concentrated sulfuric acid have to be added to the potassium dichromate solution. The color change is going to be from orange, which is the dichromate ion, to green, which is chromic ion. Let's watch this video and see how oxidation of alcohol is taking place using dichromate ions.
Alright, hello. So today we're going to do a reaction which is the oxidation of alcohols. Can be oxidized to become an aldehyde and become oxidized even more to get a carboxylic acid. But not just primary regular alcohol with an OH group in the end. But the secondary alcohols, for example isobutyl, can be oxidized and become a ketone. The most commonly used oxidizer to oxidize alcohol is potassium dichromate. Potassium dichromate or dichromate ions in general is very toxic, it's very corrosive, very carcinogenic, very harmful. It has some quite useful uses. In front of you is that two of the test tubes will be filled with alcohols, and two of this glass cylinder have a dichromate. And today you're going to be oxidizing two types of alcohols.
And one is a secondary.
One is a primary and one is a secondary.
You see right there.
First one you see right there
the ethanol.
is
ethanol is just a primary alcohol with an OH group in the middle.
Alcohol with an OH group in the middle. Or in the end. We often drink ethanol.
The second one is an iso.
The second one is an iso.
So isopropyl
is a secondary alcohol
can be oxidized to create a ketone.
Can be oxidized to create a ketone.
To get started, I add in around 10 millimeters or 5
actually
the ethanol and the isopropyl alcohol. Then I add in double the amount of
dichromate
to both of the alcohols. And then we must introduce some heat. So here I have Alright, so after about 5 minutes of seating, you see the color of the solution change quite drastically. It won't take about like 5 minutes, it only takes a few seconds. But my water was quite warm and not so hot enough. You see the color on this tube, it has drastically changed. It has become almost completely green. And this one is still a little bit orange color. But what happened is that
which is a hexavalent chromium,
had turned into another compound, which is trivalent chromium, which is green. And the alcohols have been oxidized.
And the alcohols have been oxidized.
Thanks for watching, and
thanks for watching.
I'll see you guys later.
I'll see you guys later.
Now that we have seen how the oxidation of alcohols take place in the presence of oxidizing agents, let's look at the specific oxidation of primary and secondary alcohols. Now, primary alcohols, if I recall it for you, these are alcohols where the OH carbon is bonded to one alkyl group. Now, when these primary alcohols undergo oxidation, they will oxidize into aldehyde first, and then it will turn into carboxylic acid. So let's look at an example. A primary alcohol oxidizing itself to give an aldehyde. Now, this is the functional group of the aldehyde, C double bond OH. OH is a functional group of the alcohol. So let's see how the functional group of the alcohol is changing into aldehyde, and then that functional group is then changing into COOH, a carboxylic acid group. The R group is the alkyl group, which is going to remain the same. So if R is CH3, then CH3 will remain in aldehyde as well. Like for example, we have propan 1-ol. So this propanol 1-ol, when it undergoes oxidation, it will turn into an aldehyde. The name of an aldehyde will end with Al. So propan 1-ol will become propanal. And then this propanal will further oxidize itself to give you a carboxylic acid. So that carboxylic acid will be called propanoic acid. Just like a primary alcohol which will oxidize itself in the presence of the oxidizing agent, a secondary alcohol can also undergo oxidation. However, the product of the oxidation state for a secondary alcohol is going to be different from a primary alcohol oxidation. A secondary alcohol will oxidize itself to form a chemical known as ketones, and these ketones will not oxidize themselves any further. So let's look at the functional group of the ketone. Look at the functional group of the alcohol, which is the OH group. This OH group is changing into the C double bond O group. Now you can see on the left hand side there is an R group. This R group is an alkyl group, and then on the right side we have R1 group, which is also an alkyl group. Now in a aldehyde you have seen that this R1 is the H group. So the aldehyde functional group was C double bond OH. But in a ketone, the C double bond O is sandwiched between the two alkyl groups. So that is how different a ketone is from an aldehyde. The name of the ketone is going to end with ONE. If you look at this example of propan-2-ol, the place where the functional group is, that is the place where a change is going to happen. So the functional group is on carbon number 2, propan-2-ol. Now when this alcohol is going to oxidize itself, it is carbon 2 which will undergo the changes. So carbon 2 is going to change. Okay, so the functional group of carbon 2 in alcohol was the OH group. The functional group of carbon 2 in a ketone is the C double bond O group. Okay, now the name of the ketone, propan-2-ol, will become propan-2-one. That's how it is pronounced, propan-2-one, which is also known as acetone. After looking at the oxidation reaction of alcohols, we are now going to look at the second reaction that alcohols undergo, and this is known as a dehydration reaction. Dehydration simply means removal of water. So in this case, the alcohol is going to lose a water molecule by losing a hydrogen atom and a OH group or a hydroxyl group. In order for a dehydration reaction to take place, there must be a dehydrating agent present. And one of the most strongest dehydrating agent is concentrated sulfuric acid or heated aluminium oxide, both of which have the ability to remove the H and the OH from a particular molecule to form H2O. Apart from that, there should be a very high temperature for this reaction, like 170 degrees Celsius. On the same note, we need to understand that a tertiary alcohol can easily be dehydrated compared to a secondary alcohol, which will be easier to dehydrate compared to the primary alcohol. So let's look at one example and a reaction mechanism to see how a dehydration reaction takes place. If you remember, in our topic of alkyl halides, we introduced the concept of Markovnikov's rule. Markovnikov's rule basically told us that if a hydrogen atom have to be removed, it will be removed from the carbon that already has less hydrogen atom. Another version of Markovnikov's rule says that if a hydrogen atom has to be added to a compound, that hydrogen will be added to the carbon which already has more hydrogen atoms. So in this case, we are not adding a hydrogen, but we are removing a hydrogen. So that hydrogen will come from the carbon which has less hydrogen atoms. So let's look at the example now. So let's say we have a molecule such as this. Okay, so there are 4 carbon atoms and an OH group which is on the second carbon. So this is parent chain is 4, that is butane. Okay, and then this OH is on carbon 2, so that is butan-2-ol. Now this butan-2-ol undergoes a dehydration. You should be able to recognize this reaction by this particular clue. Concentrated sulfuric acid written on top of the arrow should indicate that a dehydration reaction is taking place. Now in this reaction, the OH is going to be removed. So we have that OH on carbon number 2. So if the carbon 2 is losing the OH, the same carbon cannot lose the hydrogen. Beside carbon 2, which is losing the OH, we have carbon 1 and carbon 3. So the hydrogen can come from carbon 1 or carbon number 3. So let's see. Let's look at carbon number 1. Carbon number 1 has how many hydrogen? Now we are going to apply Markovnikov's rule. carbon 1 has 3 hydrogens, while carbon number 3 has 2 hydrogens. It is here carbon 1, this is the first hydrogen, that's the second one, and this is the third hydrogen. Carbon number 3, it has 1 and 2 hydrogen atoms. Okay, hydrogen atoms are there. So let's see what is going to happen next. Now that is the hydrogen that is going to be removed, because according to Marconico's rule, the carbon with the less hydrogen atom will be losing another hydrogen atom. It's like a very simple life concept. The poor is getting poorer. So now after the OH and the H is removed, whatever remains, you have to write them. That means the carbon and the remaining hydrogen, they are not undergoing any changes. Okay, so that's taken out now. Now we have the 4 carbon atoms with the remaining hydrogens, of course. Don't forget the chemistry of carbon, what we have said. Carbon should have 4 bonds. Okay. Carbon number 2, which is this one here, this carbon has 1, 2 and 3 bond. The 4th bond will be a double bond. So that is how a double bond is formed in a dehydration of alcohol. The byproduct will be the H2O that will be combined by the action of H and OH. So students, there you have it. This is how a dehydration mechanism takes place. Okay. Now let's look at the third type of reaction that we are going to be looking at for an alcohol, and this is known as a substitution reaction. In a substitution reaction, we have been introduced to this word in alkyl halide when we looked at nucleophilic substitution. In a nucleophilic substitution, we saw a nucleophile substituting a halogen. But here we have only substitution reaction, not nucleophilic. So what happens here is the halogen atom, usually for this reaction we use halogens. So a halogen is going to replace the OH group in the alcohol. A number of these halides can be used as a substitute. So let's say, for example, we look at one. Okay, so we have this particular molecule here. Okay, so that is your ethanol molecule. 2 carbon atoms with the OH, that's ethanol. Now reaction with HCl. The golden rule is that if a negative is removed, then it has to be replaced by a negative. Always remember that carbon is slight positive, okay, because it's less polar. So it's going to, the electrons are going to be pulled more strongly by the OH group. So carbon is going to be slightly positive while the OH is going to be slightly negative. So because carbon is slightly positive, it will attract something which is negative in charge. Therefore, one thing you have to note before we proceed on this reaction is this catalyst here. In order for this reaction to happen, we need zinc chloride as a catalyst. Now, we have seen this particular reaction when we looked at how to identify and distinguish the different types of alcohols from one another. If you recall Lucas reaction, if you have forgotten, you go back to the last video and see how we use Lucas reagent to distinguish between a primary, secondary and a tertiary alcohol. Okay, so Lucas reagent was basically a mixture of hydrogen chloride and zinc chloride. Zinc chloride was acting as a catalyst while HCl was acting as a substituting agent. So this is the OH that is going to be removed. So after being removed, the Cl is going to come and attach itself to the carbon. So let's see what is formed now. So the 2 carbon will remain the same. Nothing will happen to that. 3 hydrogens will remain the way it is. And the remaining hydrogen on this carbon also remains there. However, in place of the OH, we will have the Cl group. So what will happen to the OH that came out? That OH will combine with the H to form water, which is a byproduct. So you can see the products here now. That is your ethanol. and that is alkyl halide, which is chloroethane. Another example of a substitution reaction for an alcohol, let's look at that now. So this time we also have ethanol, but we have PCl5, phosphorus pentachloride. So the same thing is going to happen. Okay, let me write the remaining carbon atoms here. Nothing is going to happen to the first carbon with 3 hydrogens. So carbon remains the same. Okay, the only changes that happen is the place where the functional group is. So the OH is going to be removed, and in place of that the Cl is going to come and attach itself. So the Cl is going to come and attach itself. Now this time our byproduct is going to be POCl3 plus HCl. Okay, let's look at our last example on substitution reaction. So far we have seen, okay, dehydration reaction, we have seen oxidation reaction, and the third one was a substitution reaction. Now remember, in a substitution reaction you don't always have a Cl. It can be any halide that can come and replace the OH group. So what I will do now, we will try to get rid of the OH, but it is the Br this time which will come and attach itself to the carbon. So let's write the remaining chemicals which are there, not changed. So the 2 hydrogens remain the same. The fourth bond by the carbon will be occupied by the Br, and your byproduct is going to be H2O. Okay, so this is all that we have to know about an alcohol and its reaction. The next thing we are going to be looking at is the derivatives of alcohol, the different ways we can different ways in which an alcohol can be found in. So now we are going to be looking at what aromatic alcohols are. The word aromatic we have learnt, okay, it simply means a benzene ring structure. Benzene ring is a 6-carbon molecule. So the formula of benzene C6H6. And we have also seen that in a benzene molecule there are 3 double bonds which are resonance structures of each other. The position of the double bond can keep altering this position. This is how an aromatic alcohol looks like. So you can, this particular structure, okay, that is the benzene ring. Attached to the benzene ring is the OH, and that is why we say it is called an aromatic alcohol. And one such example of this aromatic alcohol is called phenol. So phenol is this example here. Okay, in nature phenol is actually made of crystals whose boiling point is low, but compared to benzene its boiling point will be quite high. Now one of the reasons that we have already learned under bonding of this in this topic was that the prevalent bonding that is found in alcohol is hydrogen bonding due to the presence of the very electronegative atom like oxygen and hydrogen. So the oxygen and the hydrogen of this phenol can form hydrogen bonding with another phenol molecule. Okay, so due to this hydrogen bond formation, the melting point of phenol is going to be a little bit higher than that of benzene. Phenol is also slightly acidic and it reacts with a strong base. In fact, they are more acidic than the simple alcohols. Like when we looked at ethanol, propanol, butanol, these alcohols are neutral, they are not acidic at all. But phenol is slightly acidic in nature. Okay. Also, it is soluble in water because of its ability to form hydrogen bonding with water. Now, it is very important, students, that you understand this concept of solubility with water. Any chemical that can form hydrogen bonding or any chemical that has a very electronegative atom and hydrogen can form hydrogen bonding with water, making that chemical soluble in water. Okay. Now the last bit on this particular topic we'll look at is called ethers. We have seen the word ether when we were introducing about isomerism. If you go back to the video, in the first part we have seen different types of isomers, and one of the types of isomers that we looked at was a functional group isomer, where the functional group of a molecule can be changed into a different functional group. So we looked at one example of ethanol, and another isomer of ethanol can be a dimethyl ether. Okay, so let's see what ethers are now. This is the functional group of an ether. The R denotes an alkyl group. So we have a carbon hydrogen group here bonded to an O, which is in the middle, and that is bonded to another carbon hydrogen group. Chemistry of oxygen, it's in group 6, so it requires 2 electrons for bonding, okay, to make it stable. Therefore oxygen will always form 2 bonds, no more than that. Okay, now let's see how we are going to name an ether. The first thing, let's look at this here now. This is how you should be able to recognize an ether. You can see that there is an alkyl group here. O is in the center, and then there's another alkyl group on the right hand side. So you need to identify which is the longest chain. The longest chain means on which side of the O is the longer number of carbon atoms found. So you can see this part here, you have 2 carbon atoms, and this side of the O we have only 1. So the longer one will be this one here, and that is called ethane because there are 2 carbon atoms. The other group to which the oxygen is bonded to is now called the alkoxy group. So now this is not a methyl group. This methyl is attached to the O, so it is now called alkoxy group. So the name of this alkoxy will depend on the alkane. So we have a 1 carbon alkane. 1 carbon means meth, and then you add the word oxy. So it will be known as methoxy. Okay. So we have a parent chain, which is the longest chain of carbon atom that actually was found on the right hand side, and then the other one will be an alkoxy group, and in this case it is called a methoxy group. So put this together and we have methoxy ethane. So this is how ethers are named. Well then, now that we have come to the end of our topic on alcohols, you must be well versed with all the reactions that we have been discussing so far. You can go back to your notes and you can see that there is a table of summary for all the organic molecules. Compare them in terms of their nomenclature, in terms of their bonding, properties, uses, and so many more, so that you can understand what is the difference between each of them. Okay? Keep playing the videos over and over again so that you are able to grasp the concepts well, which will allow you to answer the questions which are at the end of every topic. So I just would like to say that my good luck, my best wishes are with you throughout the journey of your revision and your online learning. Keep working up to your best, okay, because you know that at the end, if you put in your 70% here, your 30% will be rewarded to you at the end of the year when you resume your classes. So just before leaving, students, I have a question for you. Let's see if you have the answer for this particular question. So the question is, which of these 4 molecules is going to oxidize to give you a ketone? Let me know what you think. Post your answer in our Moodle forum or in our messenger group, or just let me know offhand anytime. Okay, so it will help me understand that you have been going over the videos, you have actually been learning something useful. Keep on thinking, okay, fire up your brains so that you are able to relate every concept to the questions that are provided. Until then, you have to take care, keep revising your work, don't neglect your studies, okay? Bye.